Hey guys, Guggen Barbecue back, and today we're going to be doing a brisket experiment. I'm going to take this prime grade brisket and we're going to remove the fat cap completely. I've seen a lot of videos of people leaving about a quarter inch of the fat cap on. I've also seen videos of people leaving the brisket completely untrimmed. But what effect will removing the fat cap completely do to our brisket? We're going to find out today, so you guys stay tuned. Alright, so I wasn't kidding. We got all of that fat cap off of this side of the brisket. So now we're going to get it seasoned up and do a dry brine overnight in the refrigerator. So I'm going to use some Lowry seasoning salt to dry brine this. Usually I use coarse kosher salt, but I figured I would give this a shot because I've seen some other people using it. We'll see how it goes. Alright, that's looking good. Let's get it in the refrigerator and I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, everybody. Time to get this pit fired up. We're going to start with a charcoal layer. Just set a really nice bed of coals. Then we're going to throw a few splits on there and let that pit come up to temperature. Our brisket's been resting overnight. We've already got that Lowry seasoning on it, the seasoning salt that we used for the dry brine. So now I'm just going to put some 16 mesh black pepper on it, and then we're going to get it on the smoker. And this stuff is really, really good. I get it at Academy. The 16 mesh is really the key to it. You can get, coarse pepper from the grocery store, but it's still a little finer than what this is, and I find this gives it a little bit better flavor. And then I'm just going to pat this in, just so it sticks a little bit better when we flip it over and do the other side. Alright, we'll flip it over and do the other side, and we're also going to do all the sides, so don't forget to do that. We've got the pit running at about 250 on the gauge. It's definitely a little higher at grate level, so that's right where I want to be. I'm trying to maintain 275 degrees throughout this cook. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this on the pit and get our meat probes on there. Kick this experiment off. So this was the fat cap upside, and which you can see I trimmed the majority of it off except for some bands here that run through all the way up the meat. I'm going to run this with the point towards the fire, and then the flat's going to be on this side just to kind of protect the flat a little bit. And we'll get our meat probes in there. I'm going to put one in the flat and one in the point just to kind of see what's going on. And you want to try to avoid getting it, directly in some like decal fat or anything like that, so you get a pretty accurate reading. And this is a big, this is the fat that kind of starts and separates the point from the flat. So we're going to go in this to the other side of it just to get a nice accurate reading. That looks good. We'll plug those in, and we're going to let this go probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Take a look at it. We may spritz it if it's getting a little dry on the outside. Just have to see, and I'm going to use apple juice for that. So we're going to close it up, and we're going to let the smoker do its thing. It's been about 2 hours, and I want to probe this brisket and just see what the temperature is in the flat and the point, just get an idea of where we're at. And we may also spritz it as well. So it's got a really, really nice deep red color so far. It's looking really, really good. All right, let's go ahead and probe this with my Thermapen, which is pretty accurate. So I'm going into the point right now. It's showing about 87 degrees in the point, 81 there. Now the flat on this brisket is pretty thin, so I'm worried that it's cooking a little faster. Yeah, the flat right now is at 140 degrees, so it's definitely cooking faster. And you can see I turned the brisket around. I've got the point over here, and I've got the flat right here. And that's because I've got a probe right here and one over here to measure the temperatures at each end at the grate level. And for some reason, this side is a little hotter than this side. So normally I would have the point facing the fire, but after using these probes, it was telling me some conflicting information. So after this video, I'm probably going to do a biscuit test where I put biscuits all throughout the bottom cooking grate and just kind of check and see where my hot spots are, and that way I just have a better idea of how my cooker cooks. But we're going to keep at it. It's looking pretty good. I'll give it a little bit of a spritz, and I'm using apple juice just to try to promote a little bit of that darker color. The apple juice will kind of caramelize a little bit and give it a little bit better of a bark. Not that we probably need it on an offset, but I haven't used apple juice before. I usually use pickle juice, but I ran out, so I thought I'd give this a shot. So we'll keep our eyes on this temperature on the point and the flat, and we'll check back probably about an hour or two and just see how we're doing. I just added a couple pieces of small splits on the fire, so we'll get this closed up and we'll get the pit back up to temperature and check back in a bit. We're about 4 hours into the cook. Let's take a look at our brisket. And it's got some really nice color developing. You can see the fat rendering out of the top of the flat. It looks really good. So the flat is at 160 degrees and the point is at 158. So the point really caught up. I was a little worried with how high the temperature was in the flat, but it seems like everything is going to plan. And I did flip the brisket around one more time just to try to get some even cooking, and it did seem like this side of the smoker started to get a little hotter, which makes sense. It's closer to the fire. So I'm going to leave it like this for the rest of the cook. We'll check back in about an hour and see what it looks like. All right, it's been about 4 to 5 hours, and it's time to wrap our brisket up. Let's take a look at it and see how we did. Oh no, guys, what the heck happened to our brisket? Man, this is why they tell you not to trim off all the fat. It just shrivels up into a tiny little piece of nothing. Look at this. This was a 13-pound brisket, and now we got nothing. Nah, I'm just kidding. Our brisket flat is at 168 degrees, and our point's at 162. So we're kind of in that rest range. And just because it's getting dark out here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this thing off, and we're going to wrap it up Chud style, foil boat method. But take a look at our color so far. That thing is looking really good. I think we've got a really, really good looking bark, and it's just going to continue to get better with that foil boat method. It's going to keep promoting that bark, and it's also going to help cook this brisket a little bit faster so we can go inside and enjoy some football. So let's get it pulled off, wrapped up, and then get it back on the pit. Oh yeah, that's looking good, guys. All right, let's quickly get this wrapped up and back on the pit. So you guys have all seen Chud's videos. You know what the foil boat method is, but we're just going to kind of wrap this around and leave the top exposed. That's looking pretty, guys. Let's get it back on the pit. brisket is probing at about 195 degrees. We're going to pull it off. We're going to let it come down to about, I don't know, 160, 155. And to continue the experiments, I'm going to actually vacuum seal this once it gets down to about 150, 155. And we're going to hold it overnight in a sous vide bath. I've never done that before, but you know, if we're doing experiments, we might as well try it out. So we're going to get this off the pit. And the reason I'm pulling it off so early is because I'm going to let it rest so long in the sous vide bath. Normally you let it rest until it comes down to that 150 degree mark. You know, it takes a few hours, or if you wrap it up in a cooler, it's going to take a little bit longer, and you can really hold that temperature for a long time. But since I'm doing it for such an extreme amount of time, and this meal is going to be for tomorrow for Thanksgiving, that's why I wanted to go to 195 instead of the 203, 205. All that collagen and all that fat's still going to continue to break down during our sous vide bath. So we're going to pull it off, and in the morning, we're going to open it up, slice it up, and see how it tastes. It is time for dinner, and I'm starting to slice this brisket up. But the first thing that I notice is how good the bark looks, even after resting overnight in that sous vide bag. I thought it was going to be mushy and it wasn't going to look good and I'd have to firm it up in the smoker, but look how beautiful that bark looks. And you can see how juicy that meat is still. I don't think I've had a brisket come out this juicy before. Usually I take it to 203, 205 internal temperature, and the flat always seems to dry out for me. So I'm going to use this rest method, whether it's going to be in the oven or the sous vide. It just depends on when I'm going to be targeting my dinner time. As far as trimming off the fat cap goes, I think this turned out excellent. I don't notice any different other than there's more surface area for the bark to adhere to, and you don't have that layer of fat that you have to eat or cut off. So for me, with the two experiments that we tried in this video, trimming the fat cap off didn't have any detrimental or any bad effects to the end product. It was great, and if anything, it enhanced the flavor in my opinion, and it didn't dry out using the rest method with sous vide. And then to talk about the sous vide a little bit, if you guys have one, you know, great. If you don't, there are other methods that you can rest a brisket. There are different products out there, such as a toaster oven or a roasting oven for a turkey, or you can wrap it up in towels and aluminum foil and keep it in a cooler, and you can keep that rested probably for about 8 hours. You just want to make sure it doesn't go below 150 degrees. But overall, I think this experiment was a win. So if you guys haven't tried this method before, give it a shot. I like that there's more bark, and you don't have to worry about trimming any off to get rid of that fat layer. So you guys let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one.